Hey everyone, it's Wolf614 here, back at it again with another video on the channel. This is a how-to series that we're going to start here on how to tune cars in Forza Horizon 6. So this video will focus specifically on road cars, and then I'll have a video that goes across dirt and cross country, and then finally across drift cars. I might do one on drag cars as well. I'm not that great at building them, but I can throw my hand in and show you kind of the basics on how to do it. But yeah, a lot of people have requested this from me on how I tune cars. I like to run some different unique things, not always go for world records. That's not always my goal. But yeah, we'll hop on into this in just a second here, and I'll show you exactly how I build my vehicles. Let's hop on over to our house. Let's start with, of course, selecting a car. You always want to select a good car to use, and it can be very dependent on class. But I already have one in mind. So this is the Honda NSX-R GT, also known as the first barn find you'll find in this game. So it's pretty accessible. So this car is an A-Class, and it is front-wheel drive? Rear-wheel drive. Okay, so let's start out by talking about something pretty important when it comes to these kind of cars, especially for lower class stuff, because I'm going to try and make this into an A-Class, top of A-Class, which is 700. Is you want to keep cars that you get within 1 to 2 classes. So this is bottom of A class. So the most I'm really going to want to push out of this is S1. You start pushing into S2 or whatever, you could get into some issues with the car either not reaching the top of the class or just not being that viable for the class itself. But for this, shouldn't be too bad. We're just going to keep this in A. So let's hop into the first thing, which I build my cars reverse. So I start with body kits and then work my way all the way to the engine, because handling, aero, performance, things like that are way more important than engine upgrades in this game. You want cars that handle well first and then put power to the ground. So anyways, let's hop into this car. We'll start with engine swaps because that can be kind of intimidating and daunting. You see there's a lot of different engine swaps here that we can do. Now, for lower classes, that's C class, B class, and I'll say A class can kind of fit into that, is you want an engine that, one, can give you a little bit of power upgrades. You know, something like this Turbo Rally, straight 4 turbo, or this V6, or this inline 6. So you can see they give us a horsepower upgrade, they give us a torque upgrade, and they give us lighter weight. Same thing with this Racing V8, however, this doesn't give us a lot of room at the top of the class. Neither do these two. Do they sound cool? Yeah, they sound great. Are we going to use them? No. Now, for something like A-Class, you want to avoid this 6.2-liter V8. This is a perfect example. A lot of cars have this V8 engine swap. This gives you a lot of horsepower, a lot of torque, but it does increase your weight over 100 pounds. So for purposes of this, we're going to give ourselves a lot of room. We're going to go with this 3.2-liter straight six drivetrain. Now, for lower classes, like I said, C, B, and A, you can get away with rear-wheel drive. I do like myself an all-wheel drive car, but it does increase the weight a lot. But for this car, and for the purposes of building a nice track car, we're going to go all-wheel drive for this one. Aspiration. Now, you can't get a turbo. It does increase your weight, but it does increase your power a lot, but it takes up a lot of PI points, and because this engine's naturally aspirated, it does give you a lot of turbo lag at low RPMs, which this car is basically locked to low RPMs. So we're going to avoid that. Aero and appearance for this car, because there's no body kits, we don't really have to worry about that. But we can get some Forza aero on this. Tires, super important. You want to, on lower classes, you can kind of get away with So like C and B class, you can get away with street tires. You can sometimes even get away with stock tires. You can normally get away with street and sport. For this, I want to have, you really want to have slicks or semi-slicks. But for this, to give myself some room in our PI class, we'll go with sport tires. Now you want some wider wheels. You always want wider wheels. You could get as wide as possible. That's normally the best, but at least one upgrade on the front. That's what you want. On the back, you want as wide as possible. Rims basically kind of can be used as more so of like a PI sort of save in a way. You normally want something that does decrease your weight a little bit. So you can kind of get a little fun with it. You can find stuff that looks nice. You can find stuff that doesn't. You can go wild, go all out. Whatever you want to do, it's up to you as long as you're in a spot where you are either increasing or decreasing it a little bit. We'll go with these. Rim size, leave alone. You don't really want to mess with this. Track width, you can increase. Some engine spaces are always nice, and they give the car a little bit more stability on the ground. Drivetrain, always important. Get race speed, race transmission. So it does look like this car already has a race transmission because it doesn't give us the option for the standard 6-speed. So we'll leave this alone. Driveline, just get it. Saves you some weight. Normally it's either free or 1 PI. And then driveline, you want always something that gives you full differential tuning. So we'll go with the race differential. Platform and handling, you really want race brakes. Race brakes are really good. They save you weight and they give you brake tuning, although we don't really mess with brake tuning. You want race springs. We'll mess with the ride height to make it look not so slammed. Anti-roll bars, always 1000% yes. Chassis reinforcement, so roll cage. Normally, it's not worth it in low stuff because you just increase weight and you're not really getting a lot of worth out of it. So we're going to avoid that. And then weight reduction. You normally won't want weight reduction as much as you want, but for this, I'm going to leave it open so we can get some more engine upgrades. So this engine, thankfully, has a lot of engine upgrades. So you want to start with things, first and foremost, I always start with my exhaust. It increases your horsepower, increases your torque, decreases your weight. Perfect, exactly what we're looking for. And then you go to things like intake manifold, your fuel, and your ignition. Those are normally cheap upgrades. You can kind of mix and match with other things. The camshaft and turbo upgrades are normally the big ones you can tend to avoid on things like that because they do increase horsepower a lot, but they don't really help your torque, and sometimes they do increase your weight. So let's start going through and messing with this. So here, our intake is a 13 horsepower increase, our manifold, another 17 horsepower, our fuel system's another 18, ignition, another 16, and now we're starting to get to a point where we gotta start being picky. So we'll get sport valves, no displacement. I don't know if we're gonna be able to get pistons, no. A little cooling upgrade, we can get one. It does decrease, it does make our weight heavier, so we might avoid that. And then a flywheel we can kind of use to fill in the gaps. So let's actually do this sport flywheel and then go back to our rims. So let's go back to our rims and find rims that decrease our weight or make our weight a little, just touch heavier, like these, and put us right at the top of the class. So this all together costs 85,000. We got a little bit lighter, greatly increased our horsepower, increased our power output, our lateral Gs, all good things. Now let's get into the tuning. For tires like this that we're on, for our stock street or sport tires, we're going to run around 26 to 28. So we'll do 28. For a higher class that's semis or slicks, if we had put them on here, we go 32. Gearing's an intimidating page, I will say that for sure. But a simple premise is you want these gears, especially 6, to hit right at the top right corner of that graph on that pink line. So what we're going to do is we're going to decrease our final drive a little ways. We'll do 275, and then we'll start messing with the gears to make sure they reach over to there. So we'll start doing this and start balancing out our gears to make them nice and even and straight on. Because we want to make sure we're maxing out all those engine upgrades we put in the car. Right there's pretty even. So you see our top speed increased from only 140 some odd to 183. Now, this is an important one because this is where things start to get a little bit more nuanced in the way the drivetrain is set up for the car. So for us, because we are all-wheel drive, we are going to go nice and even, zero point 0.8 and zero point 0.8, negative zero point 0.8 and zero point 0.8, excuse me. If we were rear-wheel drive, which the car starts as, and if you want to leave it at that, perfectly up to you. It would be -1 for the front, and then 0.7 for the rear. That's if you're rear-wheel drive. And it's the complete opposite if you're front-wheel drive. But for us, we're all-wheel drive, so we want even. Toe, you don't want to mess with. Toe changes the width between the wheels. So, because we want a nice, even, stable car, we don't mess with it. Our caster, you always want the caster high as possible, just increasing your stability. Now, ARBs and springs kind of go hand in hand. The anti-roll bars and then the spring stiffness. So, in this miscellaneous tab over on the left, you can see mechanical balance. And you want our mechanical balance to be between 55 and 60. Now this car set up pretty nicely, where it's already in our range of mechanical balance that we want. Now, normally, to increase mechanical balance, you make the front anti-roll bars way softer. You can see now it's at 60. And if you want it to get lowered, you increase the stiffness of the front. So we'll leave it right here. Normally, you want the front anti-roll bars to be softer than the rears because that increases turn in and oversteer would basically be what it's called, which can be pretty good in a Forza game. But for this, we're going to leave it like this, where this front is a little stiffer, and that gets counteracted by springs. So you make the springs softer in the front so they can kind of load all that pressure when you brake onto the front and get better turn in from the car. Ride height, always max it out. On any race car, just max it out. It's just how this game works. Is it realistic? No. But if you want good cars, that's what you gotta do. Damping, there's a range. You want to be between 12 and 20. 12 is the softest I will go. That's for things like dune buggies and race trucks, off-road cars like that. So, because we're building a street car, the max you want to go is 20. Absolute maxed out. That's like R-class, top of the line track toys. For most cars in between, I like to stick it around 17. That's a good balance. Kind of makes it nice and even. And then for bump stiffness, I always just put it at 6. It's a nice soft line because Forza Horizon roads are bumpy. Now we get into downforce. And this is kind of based on the aero balance. And we want our aero balance to be between 0.4 and 0.45. So, if you want to decrease our aero balance, you put front downforce, which makes the speed faster in the front. But for this, we're going to put front downforce up so we can increase the aero balance to make it better at cornering. And then we'll decrease the rear to make it a little more fast for the straightaways. So our aero balance is still only at 0.35. Sometimes it's going to be hard to get our aero balance or the mechanical balance to really fit in what we want without it being too extreme. So we'll take a look at this. It's at 0.37, which isn't the best, but we're going to leave it at this to make sure the car isn't crazy different. Braking, don't touch it. Don't mess with it unless you're building drift cars, which we'll get to. Now we get into our differentials. So, if you put it all the way at 100, it fully locks the tires to spin at the exact same rate, which can be really good on drift cars. But for a race car, but we are four-wheel drive, we're going to make it just a little bit less to make it 95. And that's going to be on both. 95%. If we were doing a rear-wheel drive car, it'd be at 80 because you want the tires to be a little bit more independent to handle putting all the power to the rear. But for us, all-wheel drive, 95. Decel, put at 10 for all-wheel and front-wheel drive. If you were at a rear-wheel drive car, it'd be more closer to 15, about 12 to 15, but for us, it's at 10. Then the center of balance, this only affects all-wheel drive cars. I like to put it between 60 and 90. 70% is normally where I like to put it. So now that our setup is good, you see the car adjust, looks nice. Now you can test these cars at either the Sunny circuit, which is here, or the Hokobu circuit, which is like the main first test circuit you try out. I'm going to try it here, and then I'll try it at the other one. You see this car's got some good speed, and we'll see what kind of lap time we can set. So you can see the world record is in a Honda City E from 1984, which would be pretty tough to beat because that car is crazy, but you know, sometimes you don't want to always just be hunting world records, and you want to drive a cool looking car, and this most certainly is. But you can see this car, because we made it all-wheel drive, is very stable and balanced. Doesn't have a lot of wheel spin. Now you can play with rear-wheel drive cars. It can be good. One of my favorite cars is my GR86 that I have a tune shared for in my 6 cards you need to use short out on my channel. And that car's rear-wheel drive, and it is still pretty well planted to the ground. Let's see here, we'll try to go for a little bit of a faster lap. Just be smoother. Too deep in there. See if we can recover it. But you see how well planted to the ground this car is, even on sport tires, which I try to normally avoid. But we could use the extra horsepower out of this. So you see we're 4/10 up. This last corner is tough to get right for sure. Keep it rolling. 45, 46, 47. Only 2/10 up. I think we can be better in that very last section. We'll go around again and see if we can set a better time. And that's where the time attack gets fun in this game. So we know that that last off-canter corner is where we lost a lot of time. So if we're even remotely close, we're going to have a shot at it. So you see we're just barely up. So you see last time we bogged down too much. So we're going to shift into third to keep the RPMs high. And because we have the best clutch that we can, the shift time is shorter. 46, 47, and we go across the line just inside the top 3,000 in the world for A-Class. We'll take a look here. Boom. We're in A-Class. You see we're just inside the top 3,000. My tuning setups. And there's that share code for you. So there is my complete tutorial on how to build road cars in Forza Horizon 6. As I mentioned before, I will have a video out on how to do dirt, rally, cross country, those kind of cars, and then one out for drift cars. I might do one for drag cars as well. If I see some decent support on these, let me know if you want to see that as well. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you found this helpful. If you have any questions on how or why I do things, or any questions about specific numbers, let me know in the comment section below. And yeah, without further ado, I'm going to let you guys go. Till next time, take it easy.